Hello, welcome to the first episode of We Have Issues. I'm Anthony.
We have issues. I'm Steven.
And we have issues.
And we totally have issues. We're already having issues, technical ones.
Yeah, we had some technical issues with the first time we tried to do this, you sounded like a robot for a while. And it's
weird.
It's still my favorite conversation I've ever had with another human being. And most of it was robot. So
well, it was a whole different language.
Hang on, your voice is muffled a little.
Muffled.
Oh, it just got a little better. Maybe it's going back and forth.
That's good.
Keep that mic.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay. I wonder if it's like, because my chair's creaking, I wonder if it's like creak is more important than Stephen's voice.
Maybe.
I pick that sound up.
I think it's the robots just favoring like the objects.
Yeah. Yes.
That's an inanimate object? Oh, give me that sound.
We need to focus on that sound because that's obviously the most realistic sounding sound in the room right now. So,
all right, so we're gonna create a podcast, and we're gonna be talking about our attempt to create careers in the comic book industry. Basically.
Multimedia.
Yeah.
Use comics.
We're
basically like Prestige Worldwide.
Prestige Worldwide. We're gonna create comics and music and comic-y, music-y comics. We're gonna create a play. We're gonna create a movie, right?
We all one, right?
Yeah, we're gonna do everything. I don't know why we wouldn't. I feel like the best advice would be put all your eggs in one basket, right?
like literally, like these are all of my skills. I have nothing else to give.
And this is our basket.
If this basket breaks,
it's fine. It's the smartest way to carry eggs. Like, what else are we gonna do with all these eggs except throw them?
High risk, high reward.
Exactly. Okay. Well, here's the thing: if all the eggs break, we have a delicious omelet, right?
Yes.
So we just So basically, what we're doing with our We Have Issues podcast is we're trying to cook this omelet. Right? Like, that's what we're...
Just praying that the ingredients that fall in are, like, edible ingredients. Like,
yeah, it'll be fine. All right, so I wrote down some things that we can talk about. First of all, I think we should probably talk about, like, who we are and, like, what our history with comics is. Like, when did you start reading comics?
See, for me, it actually started with the trading cards, like the Marvel trading cards. I don't
know
like the Ultra, and I forget what the other set was, but it's like 95 Fleer maybe was.
Yeah, where they had all of the different, the agility, the intelligence, all the different stats on the back.
Yeah, it had all the different factor, like the X-Force had X Factor, had all the different teams, and then but the ones that like I really loved were like the there was like the battle cards, so it was like a card art of like two different like a hero and villain versing each other, and that's actually like where I first like saw and like loved Deadpool. Was like from
really
it was the 95 or 96. It's like Cable versus Deadpool, and it's like this awesome shot of like Cable like in the front, and then Deadpool's in the background, kind of like this, and it's just this sick.
Don't you wish we had those? I had.
You know what? My Uncle Jason might still have his.
He still has some?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
he might.
I'm so jealous. I have a couple. Like, I know I have the Madman one, but I didn't get that until I was an adult, basically. But, like, I had so many of those, too. I love those so much. But, were you like me? Like, can you hear me all right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But were you like me? So I had the cards, and I fell in love with, like, the X-Men cartoon.
Oh, of course. I mean,
that's what I like.
If you're like early 30s, late 20s, and you didn't like the X-Men show, I mean... Yeah, like you're just a horrible human being. And you don't deserve to be.
We're pretty much going to judge you right now.
I mean, it's immediate. Like I won't judge anyone for anything, but if you haven't watched the X-Men series, that intro song is like the most legendary thing of all time.
Really is. Like, if that intro song didn't just like get into your soul and like shake you into a comic book fan, then I don't know what would.
You know what? I remember a lot of from that show.
The Mohawks.
What was it, Yuriko? I just remember Wolverine yelling Yuriko like over and over. Yuriko.
I remember.
I think it was like his Japanese lover or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I remember like a lot of the Morlock episodes being. I wonder if they just showed certain episodes a lot, like in syndication.
The Morlock, dude, I do remember like the sewer scenes,
like the sewer scenes with like
Green with the beanie. What was his name? Leech. Yep,
it was Leech, right? And then like, what was it? I don't remember if it was spiders or scorpions, but I remember the one Morlock was making like Wolverine.
Calypso?
It might have been Calypso. Yeah. But like I don't like that's what got in my brain. So then I would like whenever I could as like a kid just beg my parents to bring me to a comic book store, and they almost never would, you know. So I like so I actually got really lucky, and my aunt was dating this guy, and the relationship didn't work out. And unfortunately for him, slash fortunately for me, he
Still
had.
talks about it to this day.
Oh yeah, he's probably still looking for me. Like he's out to get me because there was this whole crate, like this whole basically like treasured chest of comic books, and I was just like coveting them. And it was like one of those situations where he could have come back for them at any time. So it was like, no, we can't just give it to you because he might come back. I was like, please. And then eventually they were like, okay, they're up for grabs. And like my cousin grabbed a bunch. And by the time I got there, it was just like mostly junk, but I had like Robotech comics and like some stuff like Deadpool and some like random like old Captain Americas and that kind of stuff. So I was just like eating those comics basically.
Which is amazing. Yeah.
And
90s was just a good era, honestly. It was like a lot of cool art, a lot of cool, well, I mean, besides like Rob Liefeld stuff. But yeah. Anyways, back to what you were saying.
let's hate on Rob Liefeld. What, you don't like Captain America chess?
Dude, you know what makes me feel bad about that picture is I low-key kind of have that. But like I would like look at that picture, I'm like, that's the human form. According to Rob and me, I mean that's what we look like.
What was the first time you tried to make your own comics that you can talk about in public?
Well, Tommy, God rest his soul, my best bud from middle school, high school, you know the story. So, and his parents swear we would have been institutionalized for our baboon comic, but like we basically had like in middle school we had like this this comic about baboons, and it was legitimately like it spawned because like he came over to spend the night at my house, 6th grade. My family are all in the living room watching What Lies
Beneath.
Yes. And Tommy, we were in my room on this tiny little TV VCR combo watching Me, Myself, and Irene, which is a hilarious movie. But Tommy mentioned What Lies Above. So like this whole concept is bruised from Tommy's little crazy mind. And anyone who knows Tommy, like, or knew Tommy, like, dude was like crazy. He was out there. He was so funny. But so yeah, he spawned this entire idea that at our school at night these baboons come down from the ceiling tiles and they like eat people, and they're just like these horrific like mutated super baboons. Okay, so like the first issue we ever drew, like I mean I'm you know drawing it as best I can, like drawing the boxes. It's just sloppy rough pencils. Tommy will borrow the issue after I draw it, and he'll draw his own stuff in, and like and we would just pass it back and forth, and it was essentially us murdering the teachers we didn't like, baboons. That's essentially what it was. I mean, like it was like our history teacher getting pulled up into the ceiling fence, and then like you know the resource officer trying to stop it and getting shredded by these baboons. But eventually, like we just kept progressing, and it became like a pop culture thing. Like where like we just started referencing as much pop culture as we could into it too. Like, dude, like Elian Gonzalez, like that he was in it at one point. Like he was like trying, like the baboons were like all around the world. It was this crazy, this huge crazy thing. And I remember Tommy based and like it had like these like Resident Evil tropes in it too, like like the umbrella idea, like the corporation behind the baboons was Tommy used to make these model cars. The company was Revell, I believe, and that was the name of the corporation, Revell. And there was these super baboons, like with like powers that could. Anyways, they just got really nuts. And there was like 5 or 6 issues. Tommy's mom found them in his binder and like basically just took them. It was like, you can't be murdering your teachers in comic form and carrying it back and forth between your
classes.
Like she's not wrong. I mean, like
that reminds me of Superbad with the dick drawings.
Basically, I mean, basically,
you can't be bringing this to school. So I've definitely done the teacher stand-in thing. I definitely drew a lot of things that I could have gotten in trouble for, and I mean, by today's standards, I probably would have been with a counselor for a while had someone seen that. Thankfully, that didn't happen because, like, you know, like we're just being like silly and ridiculous.
Stupid. To us, it wasn't even personal. It's not even like I wanted to see these people actually get injured.
Of course,
like a weird way of like working through it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of artists and people who like to draw and come up with stories have definitely like written their own familiar people into their stories for sure.
Oh, for sure.
I know. Yeah, but
Tommy wouldn't even rename the characters.
you
Like, yeah, it's just, I'm not gonna say it, but yeah,
yeah.
straight up. I don't need these teachers to somehow find this podcast.
Any likeness to a living person is totally, absolutely just true. That's just how it goes. It's not coincidental whatsoever. We apologize for very little.
I just don't want to hurt feelings like years
Yeah,
later. Like Stephen murdered me in his first comic. Like,
when I did something very similar when I was a kid. I used to just like I came up with basically I just ripped off Spider-Man, but it was a gerbil where I was like there's a gerbil who bit someone and he became like this punk rock gerbil man. So it was but
it was very fitting for the time too. I mean, Ninja
oh,
Turtles, all that.
Yeah, for sure.
Animal, human. Go ahead.
And yeah, dude. And like for me, what I would do is instead of like having him, he basically just was me, but like as a adult sized like gerbil man. And instead of like flying around and fighting like supervillains and stuff, he fought people who were like similarly affected by stupid stuff. Like there was this guy, like his biggest. So I hate tuna fish.
Took me a while to get used to it.
Yeah, so I don't like tuna fish. His biggest villain at the time, because I was a child who just hated tuna fish, and that was the first thing I thought of, was a man who worked at a tuna factory, and a big novelty tuna can fell on his head, and he just like
Awesome.
so he gets stuck and he can't take it off. So he's like,
I'm imagining like chair face but tuna head.
exactly. So it was like Cano Tuna was his name.
Oh, that's awesome.
So he put on like this like literal fish tie. It was just like a big fish as a tie, and he just
That's
like
awesome though. That's
just like really
creative. Like, we were just killing our teachers with baboons. You're over there.
But like, awesome. Oh, dude, but it was so stupid. But basically, it was like this guy realized he can't get this tuna can off his head, so he might as well just live with it and go like just become can of tuna. Like this is who he is now. He accepts his destiny.
Just imagine the smell.
Oh my god! No. The smell alone would make you a bad guy. Like you're a villain now. I'm sorry, sir.
Oh man.
Oh, so basically, like they would cross paths, and then the gerbil man, whose name was just Gerbil Man, as far as I can remember, but he was like he had like a mohawk and like an earring and like studs all over himself because like I was very into like punk rock at the time.
It was '90s, man. That was just what we did.
Yeah, I mean, still, I don't know. I've always liked like punk rock stuff and like genre stuff, you know, hence the Evil Dead.
It's the Lost Boys in us. That's what it really is.
Yes.
I mean, that's really what it is.
Dude. Oh, I could watch Lost Boys.
I'm pretty sure it's, I mean, I know we bonded over a lot of other things early on, but our mutual love for the Lost Boys, I think, was probably one of the earlier threads that tethered us together.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was like not a movie for some reason. Like a lot of our friends just didn't really care or know about.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
I still, oily saxophone man and all, think that movie holds up so well.
You know what doesn't hold up in it that I realized that I didn't realize that they did? So I was talking to Tina about it. I'm pretty sure that like production value wise on the soundtrack, they had a pretty fat soundtrack. But I think that they had to reuse the Tom G. Mac song like quite a few times in the movie because they only had the rights to the other songs for smaller sections or something.
Right.
They literally cut to Cry Little Sister.
Oh, like, yeah, dude.
It's the whole song. If you break down the movie, it's section of the song. Like the scene that got me on my most recent rewatch was Michael and Star doing it.
For sex scene? Oh, yeah. It's just a music video. Too. Joel Schumacher, what are you doing? I mean, but that song is awesome.
Dude, there was a period in time, like not even that long ago, where I would clean my house with that song on repeat.
That song is awesome. That song is awesome. That movie, like the mythos of that movie is so cool. Mm-hmm. You know, like I guess this is a movie podcast now. This is now the Lost Boys podcast. I can seriously
it's strictly the Lost Boys podcast.
This is, welcome to Lost Cast. So, no, that movie is amazing though, and I don't know. I remember watching the sequels and being a little disappointed, but like they were fun, but nothing
compares to the magic.
Nothing could. I kind of feel bad.
Kiefer's great. Alex Winter's awesome in it.
Oh,
I mean, even like the other vampires are just like all of them were cool. Like
what was it? Billy Worth. I met him. I met a couple of those guys. They were all really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the movie's cool.
This podcast has become that was awesome.
Like, this has to become, well, we used to want to make a comic, but now we kind of want to just read
Now
the
we just wanna-
plot points with the original cast.
This is what, oh my god! So we were gonna make a comic book about this whole record player that takes you back into memories, but now we're just gonna write a comic book about vampires.
This officially become a platform to crowdfund, so that way we can hire Alex Winter, Kiefer Sutherland, and
Jason Patrick. Oh my gosh! So in this podcast, what we're gonna be doing is talking about who we are, but mostly what we're going to be talking about is our attempt at creating comics, right? And trying to do that through like the daily struggle of our adult lives, especially during
weeks.
Yeah, it gets rough, right? I mean, especially right now with like the stress of COVID and like working through it and like having kids at home all the time. Like, you know, my son was in daycare and now he's not, you know, so I don't know. And it's getting a little harder because my time is waning, you know, as far as like how much free time I actually have to actively work on things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so like, well, I guess we could talk about what's the first project we ever worked on together? Do you remember? Was it Sumo Samurai, or was it?
It might have been Sumo Samurai. Definitely Sumo Samurai, but I don't think it ever really got off the ground beyond character concepts, right?
No, you drew the first couple pages. Remember? I have them. I get.
Oh, if you have them, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, do you remember? Because it started off with the Star Wars joke with like, I thought they smelled bad on the inside or the outside.
Yeah.
You remember? Like you drew, and it was like the whole throne.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, like so we came up with this comic book called Pseudo Samurai, and the whole idea was this guy was basically LARPing before we knew what LARPing was.
Yeah.
Right? But he was basically LARPing as a samurai with like a fire axe in the woods, and he was just like waxing philosophical, and he accidentally chops down, or like he goes to kill a fly and he knocks onto a tree and something falls from the tree, and it ended up being a robot that was sent to find the Earth's mightiest warrior.
Yes,
and,
okay. So I think we even discussed that Jack Black would have been a good candidate for the movie.
Oh yeah, and so like, but because it would have been great. I mean, like because he's dressed as a samurai and he's holding a weapon, the robot scans him and he says like, "Okay, mightiest warrior detected, phase 1 initiated," and he basically starts sending all of these like intergalactic tests to see if Earth is up to snuff for the rest of like the Galactic Senate or whatever, to see if we can hold our own.
Yeah.
Which obviously we can't because it was a LARPing like accountant or whatever he was.
Yeah, I think he was an accountant. I remember.
But
I think even his hair was a clip-on.
Yeah, he had a clip-on like he had a clip-on bun, man bun. I love that idea. I always thought that was fun. But that was the first one I remember working on together. And then I remember like City on Fire or Absentees, like one of like I don't because those were like the same idea, but I couldn't remember which name we had.
The frequency scene that we revisited in the Absentees, we did originally in City on Fire / Absentees.
Right.
And I remember I had originally that's when I was experimenting with those like fountain pens and stuff like that. And I was like trying to ink that way, and I was just having the roughest time because I couldn't figure it out. And but yeah, I actually still had some of those. I did those on like 8x11 Bristols, and I remember I drew the one and I colored like Copic markers on top of it.
Oh yeah.
But, and that's when Frequency had the full hoodie, and everything. Before, you know, he became more like a Joker-esque looking villain.
Right.
And then after that, the Carnival. Remember the Carnival?
Yes. Yeah, I do remember that. I love that idea too. Gosh. Yeah, so Steven and I have been working on ideas together for like almost 10 years, right? Just like on and off.
Longer, yeah.
Probably longer, yeah. It's been a while. But yeah, it probably has been longer than 10 years. But we always like start these projects. Oh, we did Scavengers after that. So
Scavengers got man, I even look back at some of those Scavenger pages I did, and I'm like, I don't even know if I could like do that now, man. Like what? Like I was like, there's some of them looking really tight.
Like, your coloring, you were so inspired by the Uncanny X-Force.
Yeah.
And like, and like that. So Steve and I worked on this thing called Scavengers, and it was this post-apocalyptic world in which we basically followed 3 people who were infected with this disease, who were shunned by all the society, who kind of like a pandemic, like, you know, what's happening now, except for
we could probably revisit that.
We could. It's timely, but there were also monsters because it was a whole spectrum of infection. And so they were the best, like they were fighting they were fighting to maintain their health where as they could, but they were always on the verge of becoming their worst selves and like becoming
They
monsters.
were basically, if I remember correctly, because the only way to keep the sickness at bay was to eat
To eat.
flesh. But they didn't want to eat. It was like a Dexter situation where they didn't want to eat
Yes.
innocents, so they would kill the monsters and eat the human that was still.
Exactly. So basically the idea of scavengers was like the monster, the sickness would grow over a person's body and they would become this big ridiculous monster, but within their core would still be like the vestigial human form, and our heroes would basically defeat the monsters and devour the human that was in the center, which would maintain their humanity. So
Out of the can man, basically.
Yeah.
So
yeah. But so we worked on that for a while, and like I think it was just like it took. I think probably because I mean your coloring style was so good, but it took a long time, right?
it's like those pages. I mean, even like penciling from like rough to pencil for me. I mean, I'm sure once if I kept practicing, I would have gotten faster. It's like 8 hours to pencil one page, and then like you're thinking about roughly the same time to flat and then shade.
Yeah.
16 hours a page, 24 issue, 24 pages an issue.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
I had more time then. But
exactly, and that was before kids, So we've worked on like something like 4 or 5 books together, right? Where like at various levels of completion, right? So
Absentees is pretty much. I mean, we could publish that issue if we wanted to, but
we could. I think it needs a little color work though, right?
Yeah. It does. Yeah. I stopped. I had it colored, I think, up to frequency or something like that.
So okay. So I think part of what this should be is us reconciling like why certain things didn't work and like what we can do to make sure whatever we work on next does work. Mm-hmm. And which of the ideas that we've worked on together would we still want to revisit? Like Absentees, I think, is still one of my favorite ideas.
It's still strong, and then like even Scavengers. I mean, like looking back, it's like I liked the character concepts. Honestly, all of them looked really cool.
They all look really good,
even though they were kind of like comic-y. Like I mean, Vulture had the like the little lens, like the Monopoly guy. Lens, it was like a scope. Somehow. Yeah. He had the flip, the flip crossbow.
Yeah, we had the crossbow on the arm. That was
one of my favorite things I drew was Clancy.
The flip up guns
with Clancy becomes
Crow. Yeah.
Yes. Because Crow, he cackles like a crow, because he's the funny guy. Mm-hmm. And when he does the flip and he hits his wrist on the ground, the guns flip up and he catches them. Yeah. I actually kind of captured that.
I thought it was great. Actually, if this part of this should make it in, I'll post those pictures along with the podcast if I can, so people can see like some of our old pages. But I don't know. I'd love to revisit that. I know we've been talking about revisiting Absentees or like finishing up that issue because it's so close, right? So, and
even with Absentees, we have worked on some conceptual music to that too. We do actually have some stuff.
Yeah, we have like.
Yeah, I do like how grounded and how not out there the newer idea is. Like it can still be pretty mystical. It can still have like all these like cool effects to it, but like the new idea is pretty cool to roll with right now too. I think it'll be like a nice fresh reboot.
Yeah, so right now, Stephen and I are talking about working on this idea that I've been kicking around for a while. I was going to make it into a short story or something, but it just feels like it needs to be more. And like since Stephen, we've been talking about working together again, I kind of pitched it to him. And the idea is basically a couple, a guy and a girl break up, and the guy, so I was in a relationship and basically my ex and I split up, and I had to go through all of my belongings and figure out what I was taking with me and what I would leave behind. And it's really hard to do that. It's especially really hard to do that when you have kids and you like have to dig through like what reminds you of that person versus like what defines you as a person, and like how do you choose what your things are and like what things you leave behind. So basically the idea is, so he puts on a record while he's doing this, while he's sifting through all of their stuff. And as he listens to certain songs, the record player literally sends him back to the last moment when he heard that song, or like one of his favorite moments with that song. And he gets stuck in that moment until the song's done. And it's just going to be an exploration of like the way memories affect us and like what we take with us and like what sort of things, like how we grow and build like ourselves back up after something like that, you know. But like it's a fun idea, and and we both love time travel and like different, you know, like genre stuff, and it's a little more of a personal story, and it's like it has its grounded levels, but it's also like a fun genre thing to do. So I think it'll be fun. I'm worried it's not as much fun for you to draw.
I'm gonna go crazy with the vinyl player is my plan. I'm gonna do like a crazy like horn effect. I'm like I told you, I'm thinking like not Little Shop of Horrors, but I'm like I'm gonna put like a crazy looking horn on
that cool thing. Yeah, I love that. Honestly, I think with like that extra added visual flair, it'll be special. Like I think it'll be like a special project to do. And like, and we've been talking about, so Steve and I might also, since it's a pretty involved concept and music plays a heavy part in it, as well as a heavy part in both of our lives, we might do a soundtrack as well, right? Like we're probably gonna write songs and
albums. I'm not like a full. I mean, obviously, we wouldn't be able to come up with like a full 15-track album, but like it'd be cool to like release like a 6 or 7-track, like, you know.
Yeah.
Even if it like really got this like where we could really like kickstart the idea, put it on Kickstarter, have like all these things. It'd be so cool to get like vinyls cut of the actual.
That would be really cool.
And just make them as like part of the reward system and things. Yeah. It'd be really awesome.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I have so many ideas for this thing. Like I just, you know, I want to get it going. That's why I wanted to start this podcast, so then we can start talking about like maybe what we can do, since we're thinking about doing this week to week, is like kind of plan what we're going to try to do and like maybe overshoot and then like forgive ourselves. You know what I mean? Like kind of be like, look, like if you can design like the main characters and we'll get those down. And then if you get one, I'll be happy. You know what I mean? And then we'll just like, and for me, I'll be like, I will outline the whole thing. You know, like I'll outline the story to make sure I have all of the skeleton of the thing. I think I mostly have it. I started it, but like I want to get it down so I know exactly how it ends. You know? So
yeah, having the full story. Yeah, I think and the podcast will keep us accountable. Hopefully keep whoever's listening to this entertained.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so every week we're going to be doing this where we talk about what we're working on. And then, of course, this week, since we didn't really start, we can't talk about what got in the way of us trying to do the thing, because that's going to be part of it, of course, right? Like the whole idea is just, we have issues. It's fine. Like it's a double entendre. We're going to have comic book issues, but we also have problems at home because it's hard to be creative people right now, you know? So like for me, I have my own comic book that I've been working on called Bullet and the Beast, and I have the entire first issues done. I'm trying to.
By the way, I just have to add, like, you start off on these issues with like, I mean, you've drawn your own, but like once we started collaborating, you've basically like, you know, pushed the drawing responsibilities kind of went to me. So like to see like how much you've evolved in your own style has been really awesome through the issues that you have of Bullet and the Beast.
Thank you.
Like,
dude,
you can see the growth. Like it's crazy.
It's been such like I'm really intimidated by it, and it's kind of part of the reason I haven't released any of my comics yet, because so I made this thing called Bullet and the Beast, and I just jumped in, you know, basically because like I was by myself and I didn't know what to do, and I was just like, I can't afford to make a movie, I can't afford to do any of these other things I like to do. I'm just going to try to draw. And I tried, and the first issue has problems.
You could still read the story, and that's the same thing that's going with like Bullet and the Beast. Like even though like your earlier art in the panels is like not as like refined as issue 3 even,
right?
The story still reads, which is really what you're trying to do.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Storyboards
and like I don't like yeah. So my biggest insecurity with all of it has been like I'm happy and like proud of how much it's been growing, but the character development, physically, like the character design development, was a process for sure. Like the characters by issue 3 are basically what they look like. Like I'm happy with the way they look, but like they evolve for sure. Like they change so much, like panel by panel, even sometimes, that I hope people are okay with it. Like I hope people can forgive the journey. You know, like I hope the story is decent enough, and like I hope the characters are entertaining enough and funny enough that people will just forgive some of like the.
You know, I think over analyzing though is just something you do when it's your art.
Oh yeah.
Like I was actually even thinking like whenever I draw stuff, I always try to make it as like as mathematically sensible as possible too. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like if this guy is here when he's talking, then he needs to be here when he's
Right.
this. I try to think of all the physics involved in the room. But then you look at Da Vinci's Last Supper, and it's
Right.
like,
There's
don't sit at a table
arms
like
that don't make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like, yeah, like the meme that goes around, like,
Yeah.
I need a table for 26. But the 26 yeah, we're all gonna send this.
What's that?
But yeah, like, because it didn't matter because he needed to convey that image.
Of
So
course.
like, you need to convey the image before you need to think about the physics behind it completely.
Yeah.
You're gonna have someone that's gonna question the physics, and that person's gonna point it out. But 99% of your readers aren't gonna care.
Right. That's what
They're
I
gonna
figured.
see the colors. They're gonna see the similar shapes. They're gonna know it's the character.
That's okay. So like that was my goal. So what I did was I intentionally gave the characters very specific costume looking, like the characters always wear the same colors, just kind of at least so within the first couple of issues you follow what that character looks like. So they have very bright color hair, very specific like purple shirt, and like so you can see it. So if it's just like only color, you know what character it is.
Yeah, you already know.
And like the shape honestly has been changing. Like I have one character, Terry, who's a mortician, and he's gone from like just like a what's up?
Terry's kind of like a Clancy, right? That's why I was thinking.
Terry's my Clancy. Like I created this character and I just love him and I put him in everything. That's just what I do.
Riley, basically.
Yeah, but like, dude, like, and he works like I don't know. Like the character is pretty much the same character in every story. He's never the main character. He's just always someone who helps the story along.
He's yeah. I mean, I don't want to say names. I'll tell you later. But like, yeah, like, I know who he is. Like,
yeah.
Even like, but like, yeah, like, no, yeah, he's an awesome character because he's like whiny.
Yeah.
But whiny in like the best way possible. Like
I created like that character and everything because I like him to be like the audience like stand-in, so like he like if I'm gonna poke fun at my own story or like whatever the internal logic is of the world we're creating, I want to have a character who does that so people who are reading it aren't like, that's stupid, why would he do that? So it's like the character's making fun of the world already, so you don't have to. It's like the Eminem 8 Mile thing where he makes fun of himself.
Yeah.
So so like we have a character who's constantly
the Jim Gaffigan.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Jim Gaffigan doing his own little voice. Yeah, that's what it is. It's just like that special, and like maybe it's an insecure thing to do, but I like it and I think it works.
Yeah, I wish I could be that overconfident person that just sits there and is so confident what he's doing that he's so confident. Like my confidence like just pushes into other people. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
But like, yeah, I've just never been that person either. I've always been like, oh,
Yeah. And it's always, I don't know, that's why it's like we're waiting for permission, like someone to tell us it's okay, you can make a comic book and like have careers in comic books. And I don't know, it's like in more recent years, I've definitely just seen this like surge of Kickstarter inspired, like Kickstarter based comic books where like whole careers are being built off people who are just doing it, who are just trying to make a comic book and making it and saying, hey, this is what I made. I did. Yeah, that's all it is. So like, that's why I figured, why not us? We've been trying to do it for over 10 years now. And there's no reason you and I, given like our skill sets and like our relationship and like, I don't know, all that we've done and like how we've grown as artists together and separately, like there's no reason we can't do this, right?
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, like, yeah, I feel like if we aren't individual artists, we're definitely one if we're put together. You know,
right? Tony Banana Hands.
Tony Banana Hands.
Tony Banana Hands Comics. That's what we're doing.
We are a production company. You just wait.
It really could be. We should. So Anthony, Steven has banana hands. Tony Banana Hands. So.
Oh, man. What was his name? What's his name? Anyways, probably shouldn't name people anyway, but I shook his hand. He's like, what? That was like a bushel of bananas.
Bushel of bananas.
I do have large hands, but
yeah. Oh, it's so funny. But yeah, so the reason I wanted to do this and like want to get together with you is so we can talk about our progress, because I truly, as much as I have my own insecurities and stuff, believe in us for sure. Like in comic books, I know we can do it. If not music, then comics, and if not comics, then music or something. I think we have the capability within us. It's just about using it and doing something with it, you know, and just being accountable with one another.
That last push, because that's the truth. Like in anything that you enjoy doing, I think there's like a misconception with your dream and things like that, where people think that it should come easy and like you should, it should be a natural thing for you. But I feel like in anything you do, whether it's video games or, you know, comics or, you know, your job, like you're going to hit this wall where it's not fun. No matter what you do, you're going to hit this point where the competition gets too thick. You know, you're out of your comfort zone. You don't want to push any further. And when you hit that wall, you really just have to break through it. And if you can break through that wall, I think that's when you achieve what you're actually trying to go for.
Yeah, absolutely. There was Alan Watts, who was like, studied all, you know, Buddhistic religions, like and philosophy in general. He wrote and gave great speeches and lectures. He always said, we have to learn how to play on purpose. You know, like when we're kids, we go out and we choose to like play pretend. We choose to do these fun things, and it all felt like it came natural, you know. But like now we're adults and we're like, we don't have those opportunities as often to just naturally be in that flow state of play. So we have to learn to get there again on purpose, you know, like we have to force ourselves despite all of the walls, and we have to Kool-Aid Man kick our way, you know, through those walls and just say, oh yeah, you know, and just like, it's fine. We can do it. You know, it's a little hard. I think the biggest problem is it's not necessarily hard, but it's not easy. And we want it to be easy, you know?
Like, that's what I'm saying. Because you want to be enjoyable. Like even when I reach like when I'm playing WoW and I reach a point where I hit that level of competition, it gets unfun because it's challenging. And like when things are too challenging, it becomes unfun. I mean, it does. Sure. But, you know, and that's just with anything. So I think you just have to find your center and just push through, because it's going to take work no matter what.
Oh yeah.
You know, at the end, even if it's you swear you're passionate about, like you even mentioned with like this comic, maybe I wouldn't enjoy drawing it, this and that, but it's more or less just like we have to, just producing this art would be awesome. So like even if these drawings get mundane and monotonous, like because it's just this guy that's, you know, being surrounded by normal human memory, it's still what we're working towards, you know, and just gotta push through it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I think it'll be great. I think we can do it.
I think so too.
Yeah. So I think this has gone pretty well. Next time we'll get together and we'll talk about the issues we had working on making progress. We'll see what gets in our way. Hopefully not so much, and hopefully we can work through it, right? But you know, we have issues.
We have issues. Two of them.
Yeah, I definitely have a 5-year-old issue. And you know,
they're awesome. They're the best issues to have ever.
The greatest issues.
Read that issue over and over and over again.
Yeah, the world's smallest violin for our beautiful issues, especially right now. But the point is, everyone has issues, and we're part of everyone. So why can't we? You know, everyone can talk about it, and we'll work through it, right?
Together.
I think it'll work. I mean, like worst case scenario, like other people can laugh at us as we try, and maybe they'll be inspired to try and be like, "Hey, we can be better than those two clowns."
I am not beneath succeeding by being a failure. I'm absolutely, you know, like if we are just everybody's one side or like whatever, cool with me, man. Whatever makes us money. That's always
whatever makes us money. Oh my gosh. All right, I'm going to stop the recording. Hang on. Well, thank you guys for listening to Stephen and I talk about our issues. Join us next week, and we're going to tell you what progress we made or didn't make. And we're probably going to play a couple comic book games too. We'll talk about that next time. But thanks for listening.